This is Life Bursts. I'm Matt.
And I'm Sarah. And on today's episode, so exciting, we're chatting with Matt's grandfather. Yes, welcome to Life Bursts here with Matt and Sarah. And today we are chatting with Matt's grandfather, Don. I'm excited about this. We're going to hear some stories about Matt, aren't we?
Yes, quite a few to tell about.
Yeah, well, thank you for coming in. So Don, I don't call you that often, but Don is your name. Tell us as listeners and those viewing today, where did life start out for you?
Well, I was born in Adelaide, the Memorial Hospital. I grew up in Croydon, suburb of Croydon, which I spent all my early years until we got married, of course. But that was when we were at the age of 22 when I married Shirley, my wife.
And we've got this beautiful picture of you as a toddler, which is a great memory to have. Growing up, were you an only child? Tell us about your family.
I had two brothers and a sister. I was the fourth and last one. There was only the four of us in the family. And all our childhood lives where we lived there in Croydon. Gradually, as we grew up, my other siblings all got married until it was my turn a bit later on.
Right.
Yeah, so Croydon now is a really big built-up suburb. What did it used to look like when you were growing up?
Well, it's a bit different than it is now. Of course, the new north-south freeway run. Mum and Dad lived. We were one house block in from the main road, but since they put all the new south road in, their back fence now is the boundary.
Right.
And it's always been a very busy area. We had the old Adelaide trams used to go down the road at the back, and not far out were paddocks. As a boy, I'd ride my bike with a can on me holding and go to the dairy, which is about 2 or 3 k's away, to get our milk. And there we were, paddocks just out there beyond Croydon a bit. There was a dairy, and then as I grew up, not far away too was a bakery, and I used to go around with the baker, delivering bread as a boy.
So first job.
It was probably my first job.
Yeah.
And of course in those days it was all horse and carts. The milky came in a horse and cart, and the baker, all the bakers had baker's carts. This bakery had 4 rounds, and the horses were kept, about a mile away in a paddock. And many a time I'd ride one horse and lead 3 behind me, take them down to the stables and that sort of thing. So life back in my day, of course, was much different to today.
So you're saying that you rode your push bike and you had the horses running behind you?
No, I rode a horse.
Oh, you rode the
And
horse?
I'd lead the others that follow down.
Oh, wonderful.
So what does a baker's cart round look like back
Yeah.
in those days? Was it really early in the morning?
No, the baker's round, instead of the vans you see today, there was a baker's cart, all the bakeries.
Yeah.
Golden, I think it was Golden Bakery, they must have had 30 or 40, rounds all around the suburb.
Yeah.
And this particular bakery near us only had 4 rounds, but they were just, a cart with all built in, with a horse to drag you around, and the baker would just in and out. the old carts, you could stand in them and that drive the horse. But the horses get used to the round and they just know where to go and they just slowly go around. You could be in and out to the customers and that sort of thing. I used to go with a baker when I was a lad, but...
Right. So you did this back in your schooling years as well? Was this along this time?
well, until I was about, I suppose, 14 or 15, you know.
Yeah.
When I went to high school, I was at primary school, I was doing that. But after that, that was just something extra. And
so we've just shown a photo of your siblings and your mum as well. So what did your parents do around the Croydon area?
Yeah, well, my dad was a fitter and turner tool maker. He in those days we'd all ride bikes to work, and he worked down at Finsbury, which was 3 or 4 k's away from Croydon, where in those days, of course, we had a lot of manufacturing, which we haven't got today. And he'd ride down there, and that was his main job. He finished up a fitter and turner tool maker, which I followed a bit later on.
And your mother, what did she get up to?
Oh, well, Mum was just house duties, you know.
Yeah.
And a lot, you know, volunteer work and that sort of thing. And but in those days, most of the social activities and all that sort of centred around your local church. Young people, that was the place you'd go to meet young people, you know. Then we'd have cricket clubs and tennis clubs and football clubs and all that sort of thing, but they all centred around the church. Was the sort of centre of the community back then, with the youth groups, and whereas today, well, it's a different thing altogether.
So did you play sport?
Yeah, I
What
played
did you do?
sport. I played Aussie football
Yep.
with the local, when at school, in the school teams, and then later on I worked for, played for Brompton Football Club, which was an association as a teenager and that sort of thing.
So never cricket or anything?
We'd play cricket
at
school, and the local church would have tennis teams, cricket teams, football teams, and you'd all play in the association, United Church Association, sort of. But we, pretty active and.
I guess with 2 brothers as well, there was plenty of activity, even just at home as well.
Yes, there were.
Any stories you can tell?
Yeah. Oh, no, we all got on pretty well together. That they were older than me, of course. I'd go and watch them play football or cricket, or were the main things we played. We all got on very well together, and gradually they, being older, got married and raised their own families and so on. We've always been a fairly close-knit family.
And as we've seen in the photo, your mum's there as well at the centre.
Yeah, Mum was the mainstay.
Yeah.
Wonderful lady.
And she
lived to 101.
Yes.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Longevity ahead of you. Yeah.
Yeah. No, she was wonderful, really. And Dad lived, he was about 86, 7, I think, when he died.
Do you remember the best thing that she used to cook when you were a child?
Oh,
Yeah.
I've got to think now. Because she was a good cook with
I'm sure she
most
was.
things. And,
Can't choose.
it's hard to really say which, she'd always...
That's okay. We'll take a break and you can think about it over the break, and then we'll come back and you can answer. Here's a bit of a tricky one here on Life Burst with Matt and Sarah. And today we're chatting with Matt's grandfather, Don. Welcome back to Life Burst, here with Matt and Sarah. And today we're chatting with Matt's grandfather, Don. And I asked him a really hard question just before we went to the break, which was something memorable about your mother's cooking. And you've thought about it and you have an answer. What's the answer?
Do you remember?
I got to remember what I thought about. Well, she was a wonderful cook, and most things I don't know if I can. One particular.
The puddings were good. I think
the puddings were very good, and pretty well anything. We enjoyed that she cooked, but the puddings, that would stand out.
Yeah. There you go. And that's a long time ago.
It is a long time ago.
So you moved. You'd done the bakery run in your early school years, and then you moved on to another school as you got older. And we've got a nice handsome photo of you in that era.
Yeah.
Tell us about that school.
The Croydon Boys Technical High School.
Yeah.
Where most of us that went there, it was just boys.
Yeah.
All did trades at the end of it, most of them. And that was in Croydon. Wasn't far from where we lived. And there, I did all those years, set you off for a trade, which I eventually did as a fitter and turner toolmaker. And I worked at a smaller firm where I did my apprenticeship, and then I went and worked for Simpson Pope. Mm-hmm. In those days was when we'd make all our products here in Australia, which we don't do now. Washing machines, fridges. Popes used to make, irrigation and all sorts of things. I worked there for quite a few years. And then I left there, and after we got married, and we'd bought a block before we were married at Marion, and we managed to have our house built ready for after our honeymoon. We could go straight into it.
Now, you are a fan of the show, Don, so you know that this question is coming. But how did you meet Matt's nana?
Oh.
No, my nana, your wife.
Your wife, his nana.
Oh, how I met my wife.
Yeah, your wife. That's now his nana.
I was lucky, I suppose. Her father was a Methodist minister.
Right.
And we used to go to the Croydon church, and he was appointed into that area at the Bowden and Brompton Mission, which was part of the parish. And Cheryl had come down to our youth groups and this sort of thing. And that's how I sort of cottoned onto her. And so I was very thankful her father was appointed where he was. I met Shirley, and from there on we've had a wonderful life.
Do you remember how you proposed to her?
Oh, we were, I suppose, we used to have picnics, like the choir picnic.
Okay.
And, the whole church would be 200 or 300 people at it. And the Tea Tree Gully Oval was the place where we really sort of got to know one another, kicking the football around and all this sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then gradually we had a courtship for a few years, and then we decided we'd get engaged, and from there on it went. And we've had such a wonderful life up until then.
Yeah, well, that's it. Yeah.
Yes, it is.
And then from then on, of course,
yes.
we got married, and the Croydon Methodist Church it was in those days, and went on our honeymoon. First flight in an aeroplane.
Oh, what was that like?
Little DC-3 went across to Kangaroo Island.
Right. Overseas.
Overseas.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
And we always remember it was very wet, When we come into the airport at Kingscote, Kangaroo Island, all you could see was the runway above the water. And back then, but anyway, we had a lovely honeymoon on Kangaroo Island, and from then home we got home and went able to go straight into our new home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And here's a beautiful picture of your wedding. So a big day. Where were you married?
we were married in the Croydon Methodist Church.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Was her father the minister at the
And
time?
her father and another one. Together they married us.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
That's very special.
yeah.
Now, before you were married, you were in national service. Did national service.
Yes.
So tell us about that.
1956. We were married 58. 56, I did my national service training. This was where you were compulsory, you had to go. Up at Woodside in the Adelaide Hills.
Yep.
And then we had 2 years after that in the CMF, which you'd have 1 or 2 camps a year. We'd go up to Whyalla, El Alamein,
And what does CMF stand for?
Yeah, I was going to ask that.
Commonwealth. I got to think about that.
Oh, that's all right. Yeah.
Commonwealth Military.
The CMF, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Military forces.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Yeah. That's right. I don't think they use that term. today,
Probably
do they?
not. No.
Right.
But they were good years, you
Yeah.
know. They really, you'd have about 50 boys in your platoon, and we had 6 months nearly straight up in our first run, and then for 2 years after, we'd have camps every now and again.
Right. So the 6 months was intensive.
Yeah,
That's all you
yeah,
did for that.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And what were some of the things that they had you do during those
Oh, well,
times?
just the normal training, army training of, you know, plenty of marching and, you know, learned to use the rifles and various things and so on.
So you can make your bed really well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Everything had to be just right, you know.
Yeah.
You'd stand up there at the end of your beds every morning, like sergeant and come through and check everything. And, you know, really, you really had to do the right thing. That's right, for sure.
Yeah.
So although you didn't see service, you
No,
it stretched you.
Yeah.
Were there times where it was pushed you to the limit?
Oh, yeah, in some of the training exercises. But you had 3 months permanent, and then for 2 years after that, you know, every 2 or 3 months you'd just go off for a weekend camp or a fortnight camp. You did this then for, I think it was 2 or 3 years after.
Yeah.
It was part of our training back
And-
in those days.
And this was just like in case a war broke out, so you were able to
it was
go.
just, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, okay.
Every young person did it, you know,
Mm.
back that period of time.
Mm.
It sort of went for a few years and then it's all finished, you know.
Mm. Yeah.
But,
So all your other siblings went through that as well? Your brothers? Or was it?
no, I don't know. They didn't because
Okay.
it wasn't in when they were
Right.
at the age. I was
Right, a bit
just
older.
happened to be in my era where they brought it in just for a short period.
Mm.
Yeah. Yep. And then that finished, and then what did you do?
Yeah.
You were married.
Yeah, we got married. We were married.
Yeah.
And like I said, I was a fitter and tool maker. Used to ride my bike to the couple of miles away from where we lived, the factory I worked in,
Mm-hmm.
where I was apprenticed, 5 years apprenticeship,
Mm-hmm.
and you'd go to trade school as well. And then after that, you know, I went worked with Simpson Pope, as I mentioned,
Mm. Mm.
Yeah. Yeah.
and which I'd ride my bike. In those days, you'd ride your bike to work, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, but
And that's what you do.
yeah, that's right.
So we will be back after a short break here on Life First with Matt and Sarah.
Thanks for joining us here on Life Burst with Sarah and Matt. And we're chatting to my grandfather, Don, who's taking us through a life of adventures growing up in Adelaide. And after you got married and you built your home, around that period, you've talked about the significance of the church in your life growing up and meeting. But you also found a way to be involved and across various churches. Tell us about that.
Yeah. Well, when I was about 25, I became an accredited local preacher in the Methodist Church. And in those days, they were always looking for preachers around the outer suburbs and country areas. And I used to often travel here to Aldgate or Verdun, and then the local parish, Croydon and Brompton and West Croydon and those places, preaching. And gradually I then would go down, they were always looking for extra preachers out in the closer country areas, and I'd go down the Wollonga parish and Stirling parish, and quite regularly. I'd go and take, in those days you'd take a 9:30 service in one and go to another at 11. Like down, say, Ponga and Second Valley, and
So a bit of a drive.
every now and again I'd
Not on your bike this time.
not on my bike, no,
In a car.
So most of the Flurio little churches in those days I have taken a service on and off, but
So this is in addition to your work. You're working during the week.
Oh,
This was a Sunday,
yeah.
something that you just offered yourself to do.
Wasn't every Sunday, but at least once a month you'd be, sometimes twice a month, mostly probably once a month. You'd go to somewhere to help out. Then your own local parish, you know. It's always been part of my life, and I've reached a stage now that I think I'm retiring.
You're retired. Well, fair enough. But starting back in your 20s, what did you love about that in those years that you did?
Oh, just the people, and you just felt you were doing God's work, and the wonderful people you meet, and played a big part of my life.
Excellent.
You could have been anything else, but you decided to do that. What made you want to become a lay preacher?
Oh, well, I just sort of felt the call that God was calling me to, witness in this particular way. Just through my own local church and that sort of thing, and the young people. I started off like in a little preaching band. There'd be, say, 3 of us while we were, quite young, really, probably in our early 20s, 18, 20. We'd go with another preacher or lay preacher and help, do part of the service. So you sort of trained in that way. But it was a great experience for us. And so I've kept it up till I'm just about retired now.
Yeah, great effort.
Yeah.
Around the similar time, you've been married, you've got the home, and the family started to grow.
That's right.
Yeah.
We had 2 children, Jolene and, which is Matthew's mother actually, Jolene and Mark, and we've had a wonderful life with them. I think they've turned out really wonderful kids.
All grown up now.
All grown up, got their own families.
Got an image of them with their...
And then they had, between them, 7 grandchildren, and those 7 grandchildren are now giving us up to 19 greats, so coming on the way. So,
well, look, we won't ask you all their names and birthdays.
I wouldn't like to. I might get half of them, and that's about it.
So
we've been so fortunate, a wonderful family, and they've all have got wonderful jobs. And
so here are just some of those, some of that tribe. of Grandies, and there's a couple more of the latest ones as well in another photo. But yeah, they're certainly keeping you busy now.
Oh, yes, as always. We love to see them, and we get together every now and again. Not easy to get us all together now, there's so many of us, but they're all so good to us, you know, each one, daughter and our son.
So in those earlier years with the family, did you get up to adventures, holidays? What did you do?
Yeah, well, we had a caravan, we'd do a lot of caravaning holidays all over, you know, South Australia mainly with the kids, and well, Tasmania, Kangaroo Island, and then we've had a caravan up until the last probably 10 years, 15 years since we sold our van. We've had some wonderful holiday together with groups from the church. We'd have a group of about a dozen of us would take off and have a safari up to, you know, Lee Creek or somewhere, but we've had some wonderful caravan days, you know.
What were some of the best family holidays in those earlier years when the kids were younger?
Yeah. Oh, we just go to, you know, decide to go to a particular place, and it's just the fellowship and the love and the being all together as families, you know, and we try and do that here and there.
Did you have some particular spots that you'd return to regularly?
Well, back Victor Harbour was one, and we'd go across the Grampians quite a bit, and York Peninsula, Edithburgh, and Wallaroo, and then my brother had a holiday shack at Port Hughes, which I think even Matthew here would remember that.
Yes, a while ago, yes.
Which we'd have many a time. And no, we've had a really wonderful life for that. Yep.
Yes, well, we will come back straight after this with more Life First with Matt and Sarah. Welcome back to Life Bursts here with Matt and Sarah, and we're chatting with Don, and we're up to the part of his life where you were working for Simpson and Pope. What is that? You've briefly mentioned it, but what is that?
Well, Simpson Pope was a firm that used to make washing machines and all this sort of thing. And I spent quite a few years working there. And then from there we decided, while I was working there, to go to Victor Harbour. There was a position advertised at the Adair Conference Centre to run that. Now that belonged to the church, where they'd have youth groups and various groups come in, and it was up to us to feed them, and a lot of church school groups too. It'd come and have school camps and church camps, and it was a very popular thing back in those days. And so Cheryl and I decided we'd go there, and we ran that. And,
so children had moved out by then?
The children had moved out.
So it was time for a change.
That's right. We were just the two of us. And
how did you find going into that type of role from what you'd been doing? Was it a baptism of fire, suddenly being on call all the time? How did you find it?
Oh, it was pretty full on, but we enjoyed it thoroughly, you know. We were there for 5 or 6 years nearly. We'd had enough by then, really. But that's what sort of took us going to Adair, took us going to Victor, where after, when we moved out of Adair, we built a home and lived in Victor after that. But the work at Adair was very fulfilling, and it also had a caravan park attached to it, It's still operating today, similar to what it is now. Has changed a bit. The education department uses it a lot with school groups, and then we'd cater for them, and then church groups would come in weekends. We'd cater for that, but we thoroughly enjoyed it. It was pretty hard work, but it was a different life, and we found that good.
In Matt's interview that we did here on Life Bursts, he mentioned about when he'd come and visit you and all the adventures that he'd get up to there.
Yeah.
Was that a special time to have the grandies there as well?
Yes, it certainly was. Yeah, our grandchildren, we had 7 of them. The families had come down every so often, and Matt was I remember, only a little fella there. I think you were living at Brenmark at the time.
That's probably right.
Yeah, and they'd often come down and spend a little bit of time with us. The same as the son's children and that. And it was a great experience for us, something completely different, really. Really get to know the public. We'd have different school groups come in, they'd have 40 or 50 kids and their teachers, and but we enjoyed it.
And a unique place to be too. It is a very historic home. Used to call it the castle because
That's right.
I call it the castle
The
too.
early 1900s there, or just forgotten what date.
Yeah.
It goes right back, early times.
And there's, I do remember the tower that we didn't go up much, but you did take me up there a few times.
Yeah, that's right. The revolving staircase up to the tower.
Yeah, like a real castle.
Yeah, that's right. And it's still there and operating. But that was a wonderful experience for both Cheryl and I. And
what was was there some moments that were a real highlight of that time when you were serving there?
Yeah, well, or to have some of the groups that come in, you'd get involved a little bit with, and, really, such a variation. It was such an experience that, we really enjoyed.
Like having various people come through your home almost.
That's right.
And that varying every week.
Because we lived in a section of it. Of course, we had, when the groups are in, they're all around you, but you get used to that. Occasionally we get a break, which we'd like to see come now and again. But no, it was great years while we were there, and that's what sort of took us to Victor, and we bought a block in that area at the back, in the Kraken area, and built a home, and was down there for about 27 years altogether.
Right. And what did you do after that time at Adair came to a close?
Well, I worked for Mitre 10 in the hardware department for a few years. And then I did a few years around at the Salvation Army campsite as sort of a groundsman and general maintenance man sort of thing, till we tapered off. And look back and think how wonderful those years were. The people we met and so on. But of course, all the grandkids loved coming down, and we enjoyed having them, like we still do.
And some of your, you mentioned that the people you met outside of work around Victor Harbour, you got up to lots of adventures and fun times with friends.
Yes. A lot of friends had come down, and friends we met in Victor, and groups. Then we'd go on the local, we're attached to the Adair church there, and a group of us would go off on caravan safaris and all that sort of thing. And but no, really had a wonderful lifetime down there. Yeah.
And dancing.
Yes, well, dancing was a big part of our social life. The Victor Harbour Dance Group, which we were with for probably 15 years or so, which we miss a lot. It's like a ballroom type dancing, New Vogue, modern sequence, ballroom. And that group is still going. we were trying to get back there a little bit occasionally, but now we've, because we've all got older and there's new ones now, and we sort of
Can't keep up.
we can't keep up any longer. But
Yes.
it's kept us young and fit.
Mm.
Yeah, that was a wonderful thing. There's still a few groups around the place, but they're
You've shared a lot about all these happy things and these great things that you've been doing, but what helps you get through those down times or those different moments in your life? What's helped you get through them?
Oh, well, I suppose my faith's helped a lot. When we get into troubles, well, just have a bit of quiet time and relax and reflect, and that sort of helps you pull through, and ask for guidance and blessing, and then which I've always had in my life, and has played a big part. But I know we've seemed to got through our little situations here and there. We love Victor, but we have now changed a little bit. We've come back closer to the city.
So almost a retirement from a retirement you've got now.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, well, the time came, to retire properly, so which we did, and then the latter years we decided to move down to Seaford into a retirement village, and which we love, where we are at the present.
Now they call it a retirement village, but it's not. It's a lifestyle village, isn't it? So it's very active.
It is very active. Yes, we have plenty of activity, exercise wise, and like bowls, carpet bowls, indoor bowls, bowling green, all that sort of thing, and a swimming, a pool, and a gym. So everything keeps you going. It's up to you what you do. And then there's so much social activity that we have, and which the residents arrange themselves and this sort of thing. So there's always something to keep us active, and it's up to you what you want to do. But
Sounds like a fun stage
a
of life.
lifestyle that is wonderful.
Yeah.
It does. Sounds wonderful. We will be back with more Life Bursts with Matt and Sarah, chatting with Don, Matt's grandfather, straight after this. Welcome back to Life Bursts. I'm Sarah.
Oh, and I'm Matt, and we have Don, my grandfather, in the studio, and you've talked us through a lot of things you've done in life, and your trade and your work, and moving down to Victor Harbour. Outside of that, you've had some hobbies, and one of those involved a bit of farming. How did that come about?
Yeah. Well, while we were in Victor, my son bought a property at Inman Valley, which was about 100 and something acres. I'm not quite sure now, but and then he had a few cattle on it, and he still lived in Adelaide, but occasionally I'd go out and just check on the cattle, and sort of gave me a bit of another interest. And that was where I sort of got interested in cattle, and so more and more I'd sort of go out and in his spare time and help him around the yard with new yards and fencing and this sort of thing, sort of an outlet for me. And ever since he had that property for quite a few years, and he's bought another property at Tuparang, in which I quite frequently go out with him. But I'm getting to the stage now that it's getting a bit much for me, so which I'm missing, but he misses me too, I think.
So where is Parang?
Tuparang.
Tuparang. Where is
where
that?
it's now. Well, that's near Mount Compass. you go through Mount Compass, and then once you're through, you turn left, and it's on the Goolwa Road that runs back through Ashbourne.
Yeah.
Just before you get there, and on the right, he's got about 150 acres there with cattle, and I've over the years gone with him out there a lot. So, but like I say, I'm getting to the stage now where I find it a bit much, but still love to go occasionally. And
any stories from those farming adventures? Things that have gone wrong, or where?
oh yeah, there's little things I can remember at Inman Valley. Cheryl and I going out, cows calving. We went out to check, in the dark almost, and
What is carving for people who don't know what that is?
where a calf was being born.
Okay. Baby cow was being born.
Yeah, that's
In case
right.
people don't know.
But no, that's been I've loved doing that.
So you went out in the dark, and
Well, that one particular day we did, and just to check on the cow. But anyway, it's a wonderful outlet has been for me, and I think he's enjoyed my company with him, and we've done a lot together, and that it's still going on, from Inman Valley. Then he bought this other property, so that's how we've sort of been associated.
Yeah.
Occasionally we'll have a sort of a family little picnic out there with the other cousins and so on. And
you said that you got interested in cattle. What exactly were you interested in with the cattle?
Oh, but just more or less just helping maintain them and all the little things you've got to do when you've got cattle.
Like what?
Well, when you get little calves, you've got to sort out the boys and that sort of thing, nut them and so on, and you need two to do a lot of these little things, and just the general things around the farm, and fencing, and dredging the cattle and all this sort of thing. It's all something I enjoy.
Yeah.
And,
I'm going to presume they were meat cattle, not milk.
no, meat. Yes.
Yeah, meat.
Meat
Yes.
cattle.
Yes.
Mm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Did you ever get attached to the animals?
Well, you learn not to,
Yeah.
because you see your little calves and you think, but anyway, it's just how it is. You don't get attached really. You got your favourites and the good ones, that act a bit different, but most of them are all very good. All they're pretty well the same.
Yeah.
Sure.
What's it like knowing that this little cow that you are bringing up is going to be slaughtered?
Yeah, well, you just don't sort of think about it.
Okay.
It's part of life, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah.
same as we all eat meat, and it's just part of life. Same as with sheep or anything like that. The animal side, part of our food cycle, I suppose. Humanity's got.
Yeah.
You're sad at times when you see it go off or something. You know what's going to happen to them, but
Yeah.
it's just part of life and
Yeah.
how life is.
Do you think that sometimes they knew?
Beg your pardon?
The cows. Do you think sometimes the cows knew that they were going to go and be slaughtered? Or
I don't know.
I don't know.
They may not, but they get carted around quite a bit, if you're buying in new ones or carting off.
Okay.
I don't think they really know.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, credit to farmers who are doing these kind of things every
Yeah,
day
that's
right.
and keep things going. Yeah. Now, you've mentioned your caravan, and in the early days you had family trips, but in your later days you continued with caravaning and saw a bit of Australia. And what were some of the great adventures you had in those years with the van?
Yeah, well, we've been lucky in one way. both of our children, Gillian and Mark, Peter, the son-in-law, Matthew's father, was a bank manager, and they were stationed, like Renmark, Port Lincoln, Nhulunbuy. We didn't take the caravan to Nhulunbuy, but Darwin and so on, which meant we'd take the van sometimes to these places, or we'd fly, which enabled us to see probably more of Australia or places that we wouldn't have.
Yeah.
And then Mark was 5 or 6 years in Brisbane, so we'd go up there and saw places that we probably wouldn't have. We took the caravan, not every time, but and then once when we went to Darwin, we came back around the west coast through Broome and Dampier down to Perth and home and that sort of thing. That enabled us to sort of probably do a few things that we wouldn't have done, but we'd always had wonderful times with our family. We're still a very closely knit family, and we always will be, I think. Grandchildren too, and we still try to get together as a big group, at least once a year. It's getting a bit harder because they're all getting older and got their own little lives and so on. But at the moment, we're still able to do that.
That's wonderful. You have shared so much in the past 50 minutes of our program. Really big life you've lived, Don, and I'm sure there's more to come. But in the final couple minutes of our show here on Life Burst today, if there was one piece of advice that you could share with those who are listening and watching to the program, what would that be?
I would always have a positive lookout in life and be positive about it. I also have a Christian faith that I try to follow and live up to, and that's helped me through many a situation. And just a matter of trying to get together every so often and keep your family close knit together, and we find we have some wonderful times, and we can always rely on one another, whoever it is. They go out of their way to try and help each other. So I think, we've been very fortunate with a lovely family.
Thank you.
And I've been very fortunate with a wonderful wife.
Oh, that's really good. You better, important to
You better do that.
Yeah. She's been wonderful.
Yes.
She still is.
Aww.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Well, thanks, Don, for sharing your story with us today. Thanks, Matt, for inviting your grandfather to come in. It's been very special to be a part of this
I learned some things
today.
along the way, so it's good. Yeah.
Many generations to come will be able to watch this and know who you are. So good. That was really lovely for you to share. But this has been Life Bursts here. I am Sarah.
And I am Matt. It's been great that you've been able to join us as we continue to share stories of everyday people in your lives, in our lives, in our community. So glad you could join us. And if you'd like to continue to do that, there are a number of ways you can connect with us.
You can catch up with us wherever you get your podcasts from, and on YouTube and Facebook, and of course community television and radio.
Life Bursts is hosted by Matthew Carratt and Sarah Freeman, with production by Rhys Jarrett and Kay Hoshraw Ozadigan. For more episodes of Life Bursts, go to rawcut.com.au. This is a RawCut production.